So I'm going to show you guys how to start creating your final wire sculpture. I've chosen a bird, so I'm going to begin by tracing the shape of the bird's body with the wire. The basic shape of the bird's body is an oval, so I measured that out by tracing it. Next, I'm going to connect the wire together so that I can form that oval. So by starting with a loop on the end, I can then put the other piece of wire through that loop, pull it through a little bit, grab the end of the wire with the pliers, and then twist it down and connect it to that first loop. Okay, so now I have the basic shape for the body, and I'm going to now take a piece of wire and I'm going to go through that loop that I've created near the tail to make my loop three-dimensional. Right now I have a good shape for the body, but since in real life birds are three-dimensional, they're not flat, I need to make this a form rather than a shape. So a form is something that is 3D, a shape is something flat. So by going through that existing loop from the other piece that I made for the body, I'm going to pull the wire through enough just so I can twist it to really connect it well. So I'm just twisting it around and around to tighten it. It does not move. Now I'm going to bring the wire all the way around to the other end. And this time, in order to make it connect the wire, I'm just going to overlap it, like go through like you're tying your shoes with shoelaces. And I'm going to use 2 pairs of pliers, pull them away from each other to tighten that wire down on to that loop so that it doesn't move much. The next step is to take the remaining piece of wire and loop around to where I started. I do have a little loop there that I started with that is large enough to fit my wire through. And now I can go ahead and use my fingers and just kind of twist it around to secure it. If that's not working, you can use pliers to hold on to it just so that it's easier to stay put. You see how I'm using the wires now to really tighten the loop and also to tuck in any sharp edges so that they're not going to poke out and cut someone who's holding the sculpture. And then use the cutting part of the pliers just to snip off any remaining pieces. So that's the basic form of the body. It's a pretty good size, matches pretty well. And I'm going to now repeat the same process to make the head. So I'm just going to outline the bird's head in the picture with a piece of wire. And then I want to cut it just a little bit longer than the circle or oval of the head. And I want to make sure it's longer so that I have a little extra to connect the 2 pieces together. So the next step is to make a loop at the very end of one of the pieces, one of the wire ends, and then slide my other wire through, grip the end with the pliers, and twist it. So once I have really twisted that piece and secured it so that it does not come loose, I'm going to make sure it's a good size and matches the head in my picture. And now I'm going to make another piece the same size and go in the opposite direction just like I did with the body. So I'm making 2 circles the same size. So I think it's easiest to use the existing loop on the first circle that I made. I'm going to pull the wire right through that loop and connect it by twisting it around and around the other piece of wire. And then like you saw when I made the body, I'm just going to bring it around. I'm going to crisscross over the end of the first loop. So right now it's over. And I'm going to go inside the loop, bring it all the way out again, tighten it using 2 pairs of wires opposite each other It's just easier to grip, and so I can pull them tightly so that the wire does not move. Next, I take that piece, loop it all the way around to where I started, and go back through the first loop that I made. I'm going to make it small enough, bring the wires in, and at the same time I'm keeping an eye on my picture to try to get the sizes and shapes accurate. That's what the picture is for. It's your reference to really try to make your work easier and to make it accurate. So before I cut my wire, I'm just going to loop it around a few times. It was kind of long, so I'm just going to cut some off and use the existing piece and go ahead and just keep wrapping it until it stays put. Wrap it tight, and then the extra piece, you want to just cut that off at the end. Or if you do leave an extra long piece, you can then use that piece, which I believe I did, to connect into the body. So I'm going to go ahead and try to put that little end into the first loop that I had made when I made the body. Gonna poke it through and then use my pliers to grab it and twist it towards the bird's body in order to make the two pieces connect. So now I have a very loose figure of the head and the body. In the next video, I will be showing you how to add volume to your bird or your sculpture.